As a premier community in Hampton Roads, James City County strives to maintain a high quality of life for all citizens through sound fiscal management and legislative actions. In an ongoing effort to increase transparency, your Board of Supervisors holds public meetings to garner citizen input before making important decisions. Here is tonight's meeting agenda. Stay tuned. The Board of Supervisors meeting will begin shortly.
Good evening. I'd like to call the James City Service Authority Board of Directors regular meeting to order. Mr. Powell, roll call, please.
Mr. Hippel.
Here.
Ms. Larson.
Here.
Mr. McGlennon.
Here.
Mr. Eisenhower. Ms. Knoll.
Here. Do you have any presentations, sir?
No, ma'am.
Public comment? Do we have any speaker cards?
No, ma'am.
No. Tonight's consent calendar consists of the following items. Contract award $563,983 to Liberty Ridge Water Main Extension. Contract award annual water and wastewater construction and repair services, and minutes adoption.
Motion for approval?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing on fiscal year 2026 James City Service Authority budget. Mr. Powell, please give your presentation.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to present to you the James City Service Authority's proposed FY26 budget. As you know, JCSA is the water and wastewater collection provider for James City County, and our revenues come solely from the fees and charges that are paid by our customers. This is FY26 is the second year of a two-year budget. The next slide presents an overview of the proposed fiscal year 26 budget. Our budget is divided into two funds, the water fund and the sewer fund. And you can see, and I'm going to try to use this cursor. You can see, I'm already, sorry.
Back again.
You can see that our FY26 planned budget goes from $28,600,000 to roughly $30,700,000, which is a slightly larger increase than we typically see. About half of that increase is due to a $1 million grant that we received. The next slide is a more detailed breakdown of revenues and expenditures. And as you can see here, I mentioned earlier, what you can really see very clearly here is the amount of our revenue that comes from the water and sewer service revenue, over $22 million of our $30 million budget. So that's obviously the vast majority of our revenues. On the expense side, our major expenses are personnel, non-personnel, operating, and our CIP. Before I talk about our CIP, I did want to mention that I am proposing one amendment to the proposed fiscal year 26 budget, which is to appropriate an additional $107,000 from undesignated reserves to provide seed funding for a new benefit, the retirement health account. The next two slides show our proposed water CIP and sewer CIP. I'm not going to obviously read all that information to you, but just wanted to note that for fiscal year 26 in the water fund, CIP is roughly $5 million. Roughly half of that is in water distribution and transmission upgrades, which is pretty consistent with previous budgets. Those projects, those upgrades are typically the most biggest part of our water CIP. And then moving on to the sewer CIP, you can see that the sewer CIP is about $2.5 million this year, and almost all of that is consent order sewer system improvement projects. So that's a brief summary of revenues and expenditures, and now I want to turn to rates. JCSA's financial policy requires that we do a comprehensive rate study every 5 years, and this year was the year that it was due. The proposed rates that I will share shortly are consistent with the recommendations of this year's rate study. For about the past 10 years, JCSA has incrementally raised the water rates every year, but last year was the first year since 2019 that we increased sewer rates. The water and sewer rates each have two components, a fixed charge and a usage charge. The fixed charge is a fixed amount billed each month regardless of usage, and the idea behind this charge is that a significant portion of JCSA's costs are fixed, and we incur those costs regardless of whether a customer uses water and or sewer or not. The rating agencies encourage fixed charges to account for about 25 to 30% of our revenue, and our goal is to get there eventually, but we're not there yet. For the usage charge, also known as a volumetric charge, JCSA employs a tiered rate structure designed to promote conservation in which the rates increase as a customer's demand increases. And those tiers are in increments of 4,000 gallons per month. So in reviewing the proposed rates for fiscal year 26, let's start with water. The proposed fixed rate for water for fiscal year 26 for a 5/8" residential meter is going from $7.52 per month to $9.02 per month. And then as you can see, the fixed rate is projected to increase by a similar amount for the next 2 years, and then the increases will slow at a much lower rate through 2030. For the volumetric charge, the proposed first tier water rate for fiscal year 26 increases from $4.20 per thousand gallons to $4.45 per thousand gallons, with larger increases expected in the second through fourth tiers as you go down this way. And then these charges increase by a similar amount next year, and then at a lower rate for the remaining 3 years of the 5-year period. Turning to sewer rates, the proposed fixed charge for sewer will go from $3.01 to $4.51. And as you can see, there are similar increases for the proposed for the fixed rate for sewer for the entire 5 years. The volumetric rate for sewer stays the same at $3.14 through 2027, and then there are expected increases for the final 3 years of the 5-year period. So what does all this mean for the customer and the customer's bill? If approved, the typical 5,000 gallons per month customer would see their bill increase in fiscal year 26 from $50.65, as noted here, to $55.11, or an increase of $4.46 per month. The bill is expected to increase at somewhat consistent rates over the remaining 4 years. The next 2 slides, which I'll just hit on very shortly, are intended to show how inflation has impacted the JCSA. These 2 slides here show material inflation for rubber and plastics on the left-hand side and chemicals are on the right-hand side. And they tell the same story. This axis right here is 2020, so post-COVID, you can see costs went way up. They did come down slightly and they appear to have stabilized some, but obviously still well ahead or well above what our costs were in 2020. And you can see the same trend exist here for chemicals. And then if we move to the next slide, these are both showing an increase in construction costs, the one on the left for renovations, the one on the right for new construction. They tell the same story. This axis right here is 2020. Rates went way up. They seem to have stabilized some, but still it never came down to 2020 levels. It still remained well above 2020 levels. So the next slide is my last slide, and this just simply shows that if the proposed rate increases are approved, that JCSA would still have the lowest combined bill in the region. So in closing, I would just say that while we still have relatively low rates, we do not take these proposed increases lightly. We believe that we have a responsibility to provide the service as inexpensively as possible, but it does take resources to provide these critical services both safely and reliably. And unfortunately, aging infrastructure and inflation have impacted the JCSA's operations. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Does anybody have any questions?
I have a question.
Mr. Powell?
Mr. Powell, looking at this chart shows that we're the lowest. Is that the rest of them at what we're gonna have? I'm sure all of them are gonna have to go up because everything's going up. That just, it's crazy. But are those current or are those ones that they are projecting over the next year or two?
Yes, sir. Good question. So obviously what we depict here for JCSA shows current and proposed, but for all the rest of the localities, that's simply what they are charging today. That chart does not indicate any anticipated or proposed increases for the other utilities, which, as you say, they, in all likelihood, at some point will have to increase their rates as well.
And with talking with the other jurisdictions, I'm sure you've probably heard that things are gonna go up. I'm not gonna put words in your mouth, but are you hearing that out there from other jurisdictions that they're seeing the same stress on their system and everything that we're seeing on ours?
Yes, that is absolutely true, Mr. Hipple. I think all the utilities are dealing with aging infrastructure and inflation like we are. Some of the older utilities are also having to deal with some issues that we don't have to deal with, such as the lead and copper rule. Some of the surface water utilities have PFAS issues that we don't have to deal with. So yeah, all the public utilities are dealing with these similar issues, and some even more than we are.
So we could say we're the best and the cheapest.
Mr. Powell, I was tagging on to what has been said. I understand that Williamsburg is considering some pretty substantial changes to their policies. I saw that in online recently. And you think that's probably going to be the whole graph will shift, but we'll still be down at the bottom end. So I do want to commend you, because I think people have to understand that's probably the best rates. Everybody talks about how much is going up, but it's going up for everybody, and there's reasons behind it because we have to cover the costs.
Any other questions? Okay, we'd like to open the public hearing. Do you have any speaker cards?
No, ma'am.
Oh, okay. Then we'll close the public hearing. Okay, board considerations? None? Board requests and directives? Or requests?
I did want to commend you for helping me with a constituent call where water had been running for like 10 days in the street. It was Newport News water down in Kings Mills, but you got a lot of good publicity by fixing a problem for them very quickly. Okay. So thank you for your contacts with Newport News and getting them out there and getting it fixed.
Thank you.
Mr. Powell, do you have a manager's update?
I do not have any further
You
updates.
do not. I have a motion to adjourn
So moved.
to April 22nd, 2025 for the budget meeting, business meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very
Meeting
much.
adjourned. Thank you, Mr. Powell.
Call this meeting of the James City County Board of Supervisors to order for a regular meeting. Mr. Stevens, call the roll, please.
Mr. Hipple?
Here.
Mr. Hipple represents the Powhatan District. Ms. Knoll?
Here?
Ms. Knoll represents the Stonehouse District. Ms. Larson?
Here.
Ms. Larson represents the Berkeley District. Mr. McGlinnan?
Here.
Mr. McGlinnan represents the Roberts District and is Vice Chair to the Board. Mr. Eisenhower?
Here.
Mr. Eisenhower represents the Jamestown District as Chair to the Board. Sitting to my far left is Liz Parham, our Deputy County Attorney. I'm Scott Stevens, County Administrator, and it's my pleasure to be Clerk to the Board.
May I have a motion to amend the agenda to add a closed session for the discussion of the award of a public contract pertaining to the joint operation of schools between the county and the city of Williamsburg, and to add certification of closed session?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion. Mr. Stevens, call the roll.
Mr. Hipple?
Aye.
Ms. Knoll?
Aye.
Ms. Larson?
Aye.
Mr. McGlinnan?
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. We will now have the moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance, and Ms. Larson, you will do the introduction, I believe, for the
I
for
will.
the Berkeley District.
Yes, Colton Eller. Colton is a fourth grader at Machoka Elementary School. He enjoys Virginia history, Legos, Star Wars, reading and drawing, singing and music. He sings in the children's choir at the Williamsburg Community Chapel, and he likes to swim for fun. He is a member of the Matoka Lego Robotics Club and also the Matoka Chorus. He is here with his mom and his sister. Well, his sister may have made a, okay, she made a, she left for just a moment or went up.
She's back there.
Oh, there she is. Okay, great. Let me start, though, by thanking you and your family for your sacrifice of your dad and your husband, who is currently deployed and serving our nation. Thank all three of you for that. So Colton, I believe you know what to do, right? All right. And if you'll, after you're done saying the pledge, if you'll come up, we'll get a picture, and I've got a certificate for you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great job. So everybody will come down and get a picture. Mom and thank you.
Okay. Next is our public comment period, and our first speaker is Peg Borman. And as a reminder, please state your name and address for the record when you come up to speak.
Thank you, Chairman Eisenhower. Members of the board, Mr. Stevens, Mr. Purse, Mr. Reinheimer, Ms. Dahlman, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm Peg Borman, 17 Settlers Lane in downtown Lightfoot. And I've come here to talk a little trash again today. I hope that you have remembered that we talked about the Clean County was doing the commissioners were doing a litter survey. So I want to give you a little bit of the results on that, because much as I had expected, it was very rewarding to us to know that we've really, over the 5 years, have really improved our county. So I'm going to start with Stonehouse. We had an overall score, and this is based on calculations, and I don't know anything about math, so it's 1.80 was a score in 2020. It has went down to 1.27, so that's quite a bit of discount, showing that we're doing something right. And the Powhatan, this is all on the watersheds, and that was a Ware Creek watershed. Diaskin Creek is the Powhatan district, and that was at 2.28 in 2020, and it's down to 1.43. So that's really improved also. I know you'll be happy he's here. And the Berkeley district is in Gordon Creek, and that was in 2020, it was at 1.58, and it's gone down to 1.10. Jamestown is in the Powhatan watershed, and in 2020 it was 1.76, and it's down to 1.25. So it's all looking really good. And Roberts District was at 2.20 in 2020, and it's down to 1.50. So it shows me that the citizens out there are doing a lot of something right. And we as a county, a Clean County Commission, we're trying to help them as much as we can. Now, I put on your desk the litter cleanup, and we are doing that on the 26th of April. And we're not going to be in one particular place. It's all going to be all over the county. But we hope that it'll be a lot of bags out there waiting to be picked up by the Jolly Pond team at 3 o'clock. And if any of you are interested, that's on the county website also. I guess you got them. And we have at 10:30 that same day, we are going to celebrate Earth and Arbor Day and at the Botanical Gardens in Freedom Park. And so I hope that some of you will be able to come out to that, because it's always a good time to buy some plants and things like that. So, but we know that we have been working on this since 1979. So I know that it's taken a lot of work, but I feel like we're getting somewhere, even though people complain to me and complain to you and all over, but it's short-lived because it's usually, litter is picked up pretty quickly, either by volunteers or by our contractors that are out there. And I just want to thank you for your time, and until we can talk again on trash, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Borman. Okay, our second speaker is Cherie Beaufort.
Yeah, that was Buford.
Beaufort, okay.
Thank
you
you.
for the correction.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, Mr. Stevens, Board of Directors. I'm Cherie Buford from 8594 Pocahontas Trail from the great community of Grove, Roberts District. I just had a few things that I wanted to address that we were concerned about. A previous meeting the Board of Supervisors had, a lady was here talking about the data centers and the noise pollution. I think she had moved from Prince William County. And what we were really concerned about is we have some property in our area that's, I guess, not being used, and I won't name that property, but we are vigilant and remaining aware that that could be used for something as a data center, and we don't want to be the next victims. So we're just putting that out there from Grove. The other thing was another meeting was noted that Jamestown Marina is being put up for sale, and as a result, there was immediate plans for improvements, and the new owner will be required to maintain public access to the water, preserve community space, refrain from developing housing. The county acknowledges, the importance of river access, and I say that again, river access, simply because the Grove Connections was established out of the basis of asking for river access from the James River. So we're still hoping and praying for that to be something that we could get excited about and doing and seeing one day. The last thing was there was an article that we read from Williamsburg Watch, and it talked about the budget. And we don't know how this will affect Grove, but there is a proposal for a Grove area library project, the park, all these things. And we just kind of concerned about where we fall with all of this problems that's going on with the budget. So that is pretty much what I wanted to share in regards to Grove. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker is Chris Henderson.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Chris Henderson, 101 Keystone. I want to first recognize Peg Borman for just her extraordinary service to James City County for all of these years. I've lived in James City County now for 35 plus years, and she's been actively pursuing trash in our community for that long. And Peg is one of those people, one of those rare people that is a community builder. And she is an icon within the community. And I think we all owe Peg a great debt of gratitude. So Peg, hats off to you, really. Thank you for all that you do. All right, now to my comments, Mr. Chairman. I want to reiterate my call for changing the start time of your meetings. 5 p.m. is a terribly inconvenient time for people who have jobs and families. I noticed in your budget presentation that citizens are at the top of your organizational chart, as it should be. And then all of the county administration and the Board of Supervisors are direct reports to the citizens. You do the work of the citizens. And I think it's high time that the citizens have a fair shot at participating in the business of the community by changing the start times of these meetings back to 7 o'clock, and if not 7, then at least 6 o'clock, as the Planning Commission has done of their own accord. So I think that's critically important to encourage public participation. And I would note that when the administration wants public input, they will start their meetings at 6 p.m., not 5 p.m. So I suggest that we follow the lead of the administrator and alter the meeting times of the board. You operate at the behest of the citizens, not for the pleasure of staff. Okay? Next, I want to talk about the Williamsburg Regional Library and what's going on with that. I read an article in today's paper that there is a placeholder in the City of Williamsburg budget for a capital contribution from James City County and York County of $12 to $14 million for the replacement library to be built downtown. First, I've heard of the fact that we're going to be on the hook. As I understood the agreement, we're on the hook for operating expenses, and that each jurisdiction is responsible for their pro rata share based upon usage. And so if that's not the case, then I think we need to have a thorough discussion of that. And if we're proposing to build our own library on the land next to the rec center, then how does that impact the funding formula? And should we be obligating ourselves to that type of commitment to a facility built and owned by the City of Williamsburg? And with respect to the new James City County Library, I would encourage you not to put it on the James City County Municipal Complex site, because there will constantly be need for additional municipal space. And if you use that land for a library, it will not be available for the inevitable expansion requirements of a future county complex. And I'll address that later when we talk about the budget. Let's see. We're coming up on median mowing time, and our medians continue to suffer. We don't have the type of care and regular maintenance that's needed to make us a premier community. When people come and visit, they want Williamsburg and James City County to be beautiful, not with 4-foot tall weeds in the middle of our main corridors. So we need to make sure that we address that issue. I'd also like to request of the county administrator that he provide some sort of a report on the impact of the money that was allocated for staff raises and retention, so that we can understand whether or not that program has been successful in retaining staff and recruiting staff and filling some of the vacancies and avoiding the turnover that we were hoping to avoid. It was the most significant tax increase that I've seen in my years living here. And so I just think citizens are interested and are due a report on that subject. Thank you very much.
And our next speaker is Randy Taylor.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Randy Taylor. I live at 204 Crescent Drive in the Stonehouse District. I believe most of you know who I am, but just in case, I'm a member of the family that owns the property at 8491 Richmond Road near Anderson's Corner, better known as the Taylor Farm. My grandfather was Stuart Taylor, who served on this board for 26 years, and I believe he served with you two gentlemen as well. I'm here tonight because I'm asking the board for some help. I'm asking you all to help me with a issue of a neighbor property owner. Over the last 4.5 years, starting in December of 2020, I've sent several emails to this board, spoken with members of this board, sent letters to VDOT officials, to little or no avail. A neighbor across Richmond Road from us on our farm is Mr. Ware, and he's filled his drainage ditch that runs through his property, which has blocked the flow of water coming from our property under the VDOT right-of-way. If any of you guys have been down Route 60 near Anderson's Corner after a heavy rain, you see the median strip is flooded. Along with our field, it gets flooded. This last heavy rain we had, granted it was a big rain, we had close to 5 inches in Tuano, but it backed water up across our entire field, covering nearly 3 acres of property. All because the drainage has been blocked on the opposite side of the street. Mr. Ware has a approved drawing. He has a permit, but he's not following his plans, which were approved by James City County. And I believe James City County needs to enforce the plans that were signed off by James City County. Currently, we lease this land to farm on Route 60 to a local farmer. If it floods while his crop is in the ground, he's going to lose his crop. If he gets lucky enough for the crop to make it to harvesting season and it rains and we get a heavy rain and it floods, he still doesn't get to cut it because he can't get a tractor through the field, can't get the combine through it without getting stuck. So he's between a rock and a hard place as far as paying us money to rent that piece of property, because pretty good chance he's going to lose it. He's just going to waste money if he spends the money to rent that property to plant it. So over the years, I've heard members of this board and lots of citizens of James City County speaking about how they want to see farmland saved in the upper county. Well, here's your chance. Help us out. Again, like I talked about, Mr. Ware has a stamped set of drawings, has an approved set of drawings, and each set of drawings that pretty much any county, but any that James City County approves, has a sequence of construction on those sets of drawings. That sequence of construction is to be followed, and if it's not followed, you get shut down by James City County Stormwater. And you're shut down until you remedy those situations. I understand Mr. Ware has been shut down several times, but he's only been told to fix the erosion issues. The sequence of construction, number 3 on his sequence of construction says, install a DI-5, which is a storm drainage structure, PG-2A, which is a concrete ditch, and a 30-inch RCP, and fill starting at Richmond Road and working towards the existing wetlands. If you were to look at his drawing, the drawings propose a 30-inch concrete pipe running through the middle of his property, which would allow the drainage from Route 60 to flow through his property like it did before he put the fill in place. Mr. Ware decided to put the fill in, but he forgot all the other steps. No pipe, no paved ditch, no storm structure. And after 5 years, still hasn't done it. It's time for James City County to enforce their rules and regulations and have him put the pipe in or remove the fill to allow our property to drain and allow the VDOT right-of-way to drain. Not only is it causing damage to our property, it is safety hazard and an eyesore out there on Route 60. Mr. Henderson spoke about the median strips being mowed. Well, drive down there and see what it looks like right now. There's about 5 trees that James City County paid to have planted there years ago. They're all dead, sticks everywhere in the median strip. It looks terrible. But again, it's a safety issue. When it gets a heavy rain, it backs up within a few inches of the daggone pavement, and somebody's gonna get killed there eventually when it floods that road. Again, I ask for your help in doing what needs to be done, doing what should be done, follow the rules and regulations of this county, and enforce them. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, and I sent you all an email on March 17th, so you have my contact info. I hope to hear from one of you soon. Thank you.
Hey, that's the end of our public comment period. We have nothing on the consent calendar for tonight, so we go to public hearings. Our first public hearing is fiscal year 2026 county budget, and our planning commission representative tonight is Frank Polster, so he'll be talking on some later ones, but Ms. McCarthy, you are up.
Good evening, Chairman of the Board, members of the Board of Supervisors. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to invite public comment on the fiscal year 2026 proposed budget. Before opening the public hearing, Cheryl Holland, the county's budget manager, and myself will provide a brief overview of the proposed budget. The county does have a 2-year budget. Fiscal year 2026 is the second year of our 2-year budget, and it continues to incorporate the strategic plan goals, of which there are 7, and the operating initiatives. In terms of highlights, the fiscal year 2026 proposed budget for all funds, and we have about 8 total funds, including our capital fund, is $389.5 million. The largest fund in that total is our general fund. That makes up about $262.7 million. That reflects a $7.9 million or a 2.9% increase over this year's budget. It does not include $11.4 million in additional requests that were not funded. It recommends that the real estate tax rate remain the same at 83 cents per $100 of assessed value. And the only proposed fee increases pertain to certain fine art classes in our Parks and Recreation Department and the ambulance transport services to align with what we get reimbursed from Medicare. It does include increases in debt service, which was used to fund pre-K space, a general services administration building, and the new government center. It also includes $2.9 million, or 2.9%, in additional funding for school operations. That reflects the same increase to our contribution to the school division as our own increase in the general fund. It also includes a 3% raise for employees that would be effective the first day of our fiscal year, which is July 1st, and the potential for a 1% raise effective January 1st, depending on our budget to actual performance at that time. Of the 20 FTE requests, this budget only funds 4 FTEs in the general fund, 1 in our social services fund, and other personnel adjustments. The fiscal year 26 proposed budget does not include the one-time use of fund balance that was included in this year's budget, fiscal year 2025. This use of the county's saving account was approved in this year's budget to provide residents some relief and the ability to ease into the impact from the real estate reassessment process. The county reassesses its property every 2 years, and fiscal year 2026 is not a reassessment year, so the use of that fund balance has been removed. The value of that credit was 5 cents on the real estate tax rate. And to illustrate the impact of this on our residents, for a median home value of about $400,000, which is the center line in this presentation, the impact would be about $17 more a month in real estate tax. We also provided some examples for median values that may be below that $400,000 or above that $400,000. Focusing on the county's main operating fund, also known as its general fund, this is where our property tax revenue resides. It's also where the vast majority of the county's services and operations occur. The general property taxes is the biggest category. Again, that's where our real and personal property taxes reside. We're estimating some modest growth from new construction and personal property taxes. Again, it is not a reassessment year. And other local taxes, the main sources of revenue in this category are the sales, meals, and lodging taxes. The 26 budget is projecting modest increases in those taxes. The rates themselves are projected to remain the same. As for the revenue that the county receives from the state, we are proposing a $300,000 increase. That is reflective of the state share of the 3% raise for constitutional officers. Those positions are state positions. They're heavily subsidized by localities. These positions include the treasurer, the commissioner of revenue, the Commonwealth attorney, the clerk of court, and our sheriff's department. The other category includes charges for services such as the medic transports, recycling, and parks and recreation programs and facilities. Again, this increase is mainly attributable to those medic transport fees where we're aligning our fees with what we're able to get reimbursed from Medicare. On the expenditure side, this slide shows the 26 proposed amounts by department, and the total agrees the total revenue, thereby resulting in a balanced budget. As you can see, fourth line down is public safety, and further down are our contributions to the school division for operations and public service. The combination of those two items is about $165 million, or about 60% of our total budget. The increases in revenue for next year is projected again to be about $7.3 million. That's about a 2.9% increase, and the proposed budget recommends providing that same percentage increase to our school division, which in dollars is about $2.8 million. The Virginia Department of Education, their standard of quality requires that the county contribute about $53.9 million. The county contributes $99.3 million. That's $45 million above, or 84% more than the requirement. That does not include the additional funding the county provides for school debt obligations and school capital needs. With that, I'll ask Ms. Holland, our budget director, to provide highlights on the capital budget as well as a few closing remarks.
Good evening. Shifting gears to the Capital Projects Fund, the county has a 5-year capital improvement program. In the proposed CIP, the only year appropriated for spending is FY 2026, with the other 4 years laid out as a plan to assist with future budgets. I'll note that this slide covers the entire 5-year CIP included in the proposed budget, which means the amounts shown here cover both capital projects and capital maintenance. For FY 2026, the proposed budget for the capital projects funds totals $125.3 million. Of that, the county CIP totals $104.5 million. Notable projects include $65.5 million for a new government center, $16.8 million for a new library in the county, and $2.5 million in additional funds for the General Services Administration building. Funds are also provided for a Grove Community Park, War Hill Sports Complex Skate Park, stormwater projects, and transit stop improvements to support WADA. School CIP totals $20.8 million for FY 26 and includes $11.3 million in additional funding for the preschool space, $4.2 million for an HVAC replacement at Matoka Elementary, funds for new and replacement buses, as well as security enhancements and infrastructure repairs. This slide provides This slide provides information on the proposed CIP expenditures at a summary level, but further details on each department's capital needs can be found in the proposed budget, along with a breakdown of the various funding sources that support CIP. Now that we've provided an overview of operating and capital activity in the proposed budget, we will now move on to budget process and timeline. It's important to note that the budget process for the county is a year-long endeavor. We monitor the budget to actual performance throughout the year, and we begin developing the budget for the upcoming fiscal year in the fall. At that time, we work with departments on their capital needs and personnel requests, and the community engagement process starts in January with the pre-budget public hearing in order to receive input early in the process. We continue budget discussions at subsequent board meetings, the board retreat, and the community meeting. For FY 2026, this community meeting was held last week, and that presentation is available on the county's website. The next steps in the FY 2026 budget process include a discussion at the board's business meeting at 1 p.m. on April 22nd. Then on May 13th, the FY 26 budget is scheduled for adoption at the board's 5 p.m. meeting. Additional information on this schedule can be found on the county's website or by calling the number on the screen. I'll also note that the county's website provides a number of resources. The FY 2026 proposed budget is available there, and that document includes summary level and detailed account information, a supplemental section with historical data and demographics, and appendices with the county's tax rates and fees. The website also includes prior year budgets, the audited financial statements for the past 10 years, which contains the county's actual revenue and expenditure results, and there's an online expenditure register or checkbook, which is updated on a monthly basis. That concludes our presentation on the FY 2026 proposed budget, and Ms. McCarthy or I would be happy to answer any questions before we open the public hearing.
Questions for staff?
Well, when do you want our questions prior to our next meeting that are more in nature, like what fees could we look at? What is that rather than tonight? Okay, thank you.
I think anytime you have questions on the budget, if you want to share those with us over the coming weeks, tomorrow, next week, if we had them before your work session or business meeting, that would be helpful. We can have a better response for you. If you haven't met the business meeting, we'll do our best on the fly, but having those in advance of that would be very helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Hey, I will open the public hearing, and our first speaker is Richard Timberlake.
Members of the board, Chairman, I appreciate you guys having me. My name is Rick Timberlake. I live on Whiffet Way in Williamsburg, Virginia. I've come to speak against the 2026 amounts for this budget. I feel as though James City County is going way beyond its needs. For once, the schools aren't the most expensive thing in the county budget. The need for more buildings appears to be more expensive than the schools. I will always speak about the fact that, as I have before, the enrollment rate in Williamsburg, James City County schools is flat. The grades are down, and yet the school system will come up and beg you for more money every year when they need more money for good teachers and good school bus drivers, but they want to spend $122,000 of our dollars on renaming a school that does not need to be renamed. You guys need to sit closer together because I'm going to wear my neck out going back and forth. Anyway, the concept of using the taxpayers' dollars for these kinds of expenditures appears to be too much at this time. Yes, Mr. Hippel's right, everything's going up. So it's not a time to expand on another building out in next to the rec center just because this one's getting too old. You're not going to make enough money selling this property back to Kingsmill to be able to pay for these. So there's going to be an expense that has to be covered by debt. There's going to be debt service. I just saw over $2 million we're paying on debt settlement service with the James City County Service Authority. An entity in James City County that's going to go up 57% over the next 5 years. Things are going up. We do not need to put Fairfax County to shame. I ask you to please slow up on this spending of our money. I need this 2026 budget to go to a budget referendum, a bond referendum, and let the people of James City County tell you how they feel about this, how this money is spent. Thank you very much. Appreciate you having me.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker is it Dan Roos?
Good evening, board. Appreciate you having me. So just really quickly, my name is Dan Roos. I live in 3292 Reeds Way in Berkeley District, Mrs. Larson's district. And I'm married, got 12 kids. We homeschool. I got a degree in economics, a master's degree in HR management. I spent 24 years in the Army, and I've run budgets that were hundreds of millions of dollars, so I appreciate the complexity and the struggle that you guys have with this. In addition to that, I run and own a financial services brokerage. So I'm an insurance broker, a mortgage broker, and an investment broker, and I work with middle-income America on a daily basis. Having said that, as I look at, the minimum wage today in Virginia is $12.41. Next year, it's supposed to be $13.50. And I noticed that you guys said that you got a raise, you gave a raise to the people that work here, 3% in July 2024, 1% hopefully in January. And so when I look at the property tax, And it went up 14% last year, which by the way, increased my mortgage over $100 a month. And it's going to be raised another 7% this year, which is going to increase my mortgage another $50 to $60 a month. That's a 21% increase in 2 years. But you just said you're paying the people, you're going to give them a raise of 3%. How can we do this? And the second and third order of effects that I just want to make sure you guys understand, which you probably do, but just needs to be said, the people who work here cannot afford housing. The average cost of a house in James City County is well over $2,000 a month. And if you're renting, it's the same. And so when the property taxes go up, who do you think is paying that? Right? So if I'm renting a house from somebody and you raise my property tax if I own the house, guess what I'm doing to the renter? I'm increasing the rent. And so what's going to happen is we are going to end up driving out most of the workforce. I was talking to a manager. A guy manages the Papa John's. He makes $16.50 an hour. I don't even understand how he probably doesn't even live here. My point is that most of the people that work in James City County aren't going to be able to afford the housing, and they're going to move, and they're going to go someplace else. They're going to go to Newport News, wherever, where they can afford it. They're not going to drive into Williamsburg 30, 40 minutes to work here, which means the tourism and all the service projects, the things that we use here in James City County to make a lot of this money, sales taxes and restaurants and things like that, we won't have the workers, and we're going to be in a lot of trouble. And so I just want to make sure that you all recognize these things. If we're increasing people's salary by 3% and we're increasing our property taxes by 10% a year, we're in a lot of trouble. We're in a lot of trouble. And second thing is, with the borrowing, I know Mr. Timberlake, oh, by the way, I agree with Mr. Henderson. Oh, here, sir, you got to have these meetings at times when people are, if I didn't own a business, I wouldn't be here. But because I own a business, I can come here at this time. And by the way, is that meeting April 22nd, is that just for you guys and gals? Okay, because it's at 1 o'clock, so I figured that the public wasn't supposed to come to that. Okay, so, and then the borrowing. Absolutely agree with Mr. Timberlake. $50 million for a library. We homeschool our kids, and I've been in that library in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening. It is not crowded. The books are on the shelves. There's no lines. So I'm struggling to understand why we need to pay $50 million for a library. I can't say that I know every intricate piece about the budget here in James City County. Probably should know more, but I got to believe we can use $50 million a lot more effectively. And since we're going to have to borrow the money, that with the other building, I guess the government building is going to cost $180 million. We have got to put that on a referendum. And here's why. If I want to buy something in my house, in my household budget, I can't just go down the street and buy a Lamborghini. Now, I want to, don't get me wrong. But I have got to talk to the other people that's going to impact, which would be my wife. And my wife might have an opposing view with me having a Lamborghini. And she might have talked some sense into me about that. And so if we're even considering the $50 million for a library, that has got to be on a referendum that all the people in this county get to decide. That's critical. And even with that, the other building that's at $280 million. Now, it's not just about the property tax, but I just heard the lady right here talk about we're going to increase for a $400,000 house, $17 a month for the real estate tax. Oh, by the way, I happen to use, I don't use 5,000 gallons in my house, so you can imagine with all those kids in there. So I'm in the second and third tier, so my water usage is going to go up 50, 60, 70% a month. Include the property tax, include the real estate tax. So it just compounds itself and prices us all out. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker is Jay Everson. Oops.
Excuse me. Jay Everson, 6923 Chancery Way. Excuse me? Oh, I thought you said something. I'm here to talk about the borrowing, particularly about the county complex and the library. We're budgeted this fiscal year $65 million for the county complex, 16.4, I think it says 16.7 up there. So on and so forth down over the next 3 years at 189.5 million for the county complex and some 49.2 million for the library, which is $238.7 million. You're proposing, this proposal is calling for fiscal, by fiscal 30, to start the year off at $369 million. The debt service for this in 26 will be $24.45 million, growing to $39.325 million in 2030. Now, the issue I have at this point is that we should be proud we have a AAA bond rating. But James Blair, in your latest bond issue of $69 million, went out a AA plus because we are going through lease purchase to the EDA. So we don't have a general obligation bond, which I asked about at last week's budget meeting here. And I think Ms. McCarthy mentioned that we get about 0.25, a 0.25% reduction in interest if we had a general obligation bond. To get a general obligation bond, you have to put it to referendum. Now, when you're spending $189 million for the county complex, that's a lot of money. And it seems to me that this decision to spend these kind of dollars should rest with the citizens of this county. You can get it you could get a referendum this year on the gubernatorial, et cetera, election in November. The 49 million or 50 million for the library, I would ask that you would separate these two, because there are people who use the library and you don't want to get this all mixed up with the county complex. Now, 0.25% is real money. You know, it's $2.50 per thousand is what that works out to per year. So you're looking at 500,000 or so per year in additional interest, which is coming from the taxpayers. And as you know, in a 20-year bond, the first 5 years, you really don't have a lot of principal reduction. So you're looking at about $2.5 million in additional money to finance these two, coming out of the people's pocket over and above what they could have if they had approved it. And my suggestion, and I hope that you will do this, is to put this to a referendum and let the people decide on this, because you're spending a lot of money, and maybe people are in favor of it. You go out and explain to people why we need a new county complex. If they vote for it, fine. We get an interest reduction. Same with the library. Thank you very much for your time.
Next speaker is Stephen Maines.
Well, good evening. I'm Stephen Maines, James City County resident, 3781 Captain Wynn Drive in Williamsburg. So I come here once again to ask you to rethink the outrageous tax increases you're placing on the good people of James City County. From what I can see, there's no end to the appetite of this board for higher taxes, even as you struggle to define what we're really paying for. Last year, you passed a 21% tax increase over 2 years without a single dissenting vote. Now this year, you have come back with an amended budget proposal that's even larger than the revenue provided by that 21% increase. Only in government do costs go up when the revenue rises. You're going the wrong direction. You should be looking at ways to trim the budget. A good start would be to live within the 14% tax increase that you levied on us last year, but I see no options in the proposed budget to do so. The only option you shared last year or this is spending all the revenue that might come in. We often hear that the money will go towards increased quality of life, but that better quality of life doesn't appear to include letting people spend their hard-earned money in the manner in which they desire. Some 7,500 of your residents, your neighbors, go to the food bank at the House of Mercy on a regular basis. Some 2,400 of those are helped each and every week. And I know last year you said that you could all afford to pay a little more in taxes. But I know 7,500 of your residents, 10% of the county, who can't. And that's just the number helped by the House of Mercy. I don't have the numbers for Grove Christian Outreach Center, Fish, or the other many faith-based centers in our community, so my numbers are very conservative. The problem is greater than you know. And you'll probably scoff that those receiving food assistance probably don't live in the median $412,000 home in James City County, who, can pay a little more. But they live somewhere, and someone owns that property and pays property tax on it. When the landlord's expenses rise, rents rise. It's common sense. It's Econ 101. One is only to drive through Newtown and see the vacant commercial properties that seem to outnumber occupied storefronts to understand what a misaligned cost structure does to a community. Every one of those storefronts stands open because someone makes the determination that costs were higher than the potential gain. And you contributed to that by increasing their property tax by 21%. All those potentially vibrant businesses that would make our community a wonderful place to live and play, and who would make maybe just a small dent in that number of food insecure residents by providing them jobs. Businesses who would contribute sales tax to the county coffers. But no, we let the storefronts go empty instead of making property more affordable. Some friends have told me that this is a lost battle, that we should just bite the bullet and try to fight future spending. Well, I say nonsense. There is no narcotic as addictive as spending other people's money, and it's time for an intervention. Let's cut, if not now, when? Make the 5-cent so-called rebate permanent. Let's cut back last year's 14% increase to 2024 plus inflation. Not for me, but do so for some of those 10% of your fellow residents who don't have to, so they don't have to ask for handouts to feed their families. Thank you.
Next speaker is Robert Mandrolio. Pardon my pronunciation, if you can correct me on it.
Chairman, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Over the past 2 months, we've been watching at the national level a select group of individuals identify government waste, spending, money being thrown away, to a point where the last statistic that I've seen is that we are now spending approximately 120% of our GDP. What that means is that we're spending 20% more than what we have. At the national level, this can be compared to most countries, but most importantly, the United States. We, at the county and city levels, are a microcosm of what happens nationwide. We have to be fiscally conservative, fiscally responsible for the money that is entrusted to us. So that when I see a tax increase over a 2-year period of approximately 21%, what I'm seeing is a Board of Supervisors that is trying to spend money that they don't have. Over the next 3 years, we are proposed to spend approximately $189 million on a complex that is going to be used for county administration. Sounds great, but for the average person, what is that actually going to provide? I mean, more space, more building, more construction, at a cost that will probably exceed $200 million in real time and real dollars. So what I'm suggesting here is that instead of trying to spend money, future money that we don't have, maybe we should take a look at our budget and see what can be cut, as one of the other gentlemen here has already mentioned. I'm in a very interesting position because I'm also a member of the Board of Directors of a homeowners association. I am seeing, as well as many other people falling behind in their homeowners association dues. I don't even want to think about what's happening to their mortgages. The people of this county are in a situation in which they can't afford the places in which they live. So by raising taxes, by increasing costs, by showing the people that Board of Supervisors is not looking out for their best interests, shows, at least to me, that we have to make some changes, or should I say you have to make some changes. Contrary to the belief, or maybe some of the people's viewpoints, the citizens of James City County are not walking cash registers We're not walking checkbooks. We have to make our budgets just like you do. So the situation that we're facing now is not one of spending more money, it's one of spending less. That is the reason why you people were elected. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, I did not get your address.
I'm showing Post Office Box 134 in Toronto.
Thank you, sir. Next is Chris Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chris Henderson, 101 Keystone. Having lived here a long time, not as many as some, but much longer than most, I have an appreciation for the value in James City County. We heard Mr. Powell earlier today talk about the pride that he and the Board of Directors of the James City Service Authority take in having the lowest water rate in the region. Well, I'd like to see a Board of Supervisors that has as its goal the lowest tax rate in the region. And let's set that as a goal instead of increasing the obligations upon our citizens. This building is a perfect example. This building is relatively new compared to the others, and it's paid for. And that's a wonderful thing. I was privileged to be raised by parents who lived through the Depression. And they taught me that savings was good and that you couldn't buy something unless you could pay cash for it. This notion that we can borrow money to finance the dreams and visions on the backs of taxpayers is insanity in this environment. And it's time that we put an end to the notion that we're going to spend $200 million of taxpayer money on a new municipal complex. The budget simply doesn't support it. And you will bind this community and the taxpayers who pay the bills and your salaries into a situation where we will have zero flexibility to meet emergencies that no doubt will come our way. So I'm going to urge you tonight and at your meeting, the first order of business is to strike from the budget the $189 million allocated for the new municipal complex. We can't afford it. And if you're still bent on doing it, then at least do the honorable thing and put it out on referendum so that the citizens can weigh in on the issue. And I'm going to make a prediction like I did last week that it's going to go down. It's a 70-30 issue. People don't care about a brand new shiny toy for municipal government. They're more interested in putting food on their table and getting their kids properly educated and having safe streets and a fire department that will show up when they need it than they are about a $200 million project, which would be the largest in James City County history by far, an order of magnitude of 2. So that's the first order of business with respect to the budget. Strike the municipal complex. Number 2 is we have $1 million gap in funding for our police department. We have $1 million between overtime, empty positions, equipment, and replacement of personnel. That's a need for our community. You have the chief law enforcement officer in this community telling you that he needs another $1 million to properly protect our community. But we have a budget that doesn't fund it. To me, that's irresponsible. That's not addressing the needs of the community. And you have a budget of wants, not needs. You have a school system that's looking for an additional $10 million on top of what you've contributed. You did you did the process of comparing county staff to the regional average. The teachers did the same thing. You funded the administrative side. I think it's only fair you fund the school side. Now, we can talk about the funding formula with the city, which is totally messed up. And I think we ought to be looking very seriously at splitting from the city of Williamsburg and owning and operating our own school system that's responsible to the taxpayers of James City County, not to the unelected people that the city appoints to the school board. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Patrick McMahon.
Good evening. Patrick McMahon, 609 River Bluffs, Williamsburg. I've only been here about 4 years, having moved down from New York to escape the insanity of continued increases in taxes and diminishing returns for all of us citizens in that city. It seems to me that we're kind of going down the same tree and same street here in Williamsburg and James City County, and I just caution you, that's a big mistake. Many people have left New York for precisely that sort of situation, and if you lose the people that are supporting us here, nobody's going to want to come to Williamsburg, as nobody's going to New York. It's a very interesting time. Retirement money that's been allocated by people has been decreased significantly, and to start a $180 million project in this current fiscal environment is basically bordering on insanity. Thank you very much.
And the next public speaker is Marco Sardi.
Good evening, members of the board. Mr. Chairman, my name is Marco Sardi. I live at 4008 Governor Square. I've resided in the county, and I'm a teacher at James Blair Middle School. I'm here today not to ask you to take money away from county services or to magically conjure funding that doesn't exist. But I'm here to ask of you to think about what our community values. Education is my field of expertise. And education is about investing in the future. And as we have seen this past week, the future can be very hard to predict and to prepare for. As a taxpayer and as an employee of our schools, I'm looking for two things in a community to see if it has a future that I'm comfortable with participating in. Do I have a job? And does my neighbor have a job? The first is to look out for my own needs, to put my food on the table. And the second is to make sure that others who want to come in here have a future as well. And our budget this year fails in some regard to plan for those questions. And I think there's an important conversation to be had about why that may be. The proposed education budget this year will fund the mandatory increases only, and the additional $1.4 million that the city is offering will be all that is left to fund any additional growth that our schools wish to have. As has been noted, our school population is flat, but that does not mean that material cost and wages are not affected by rising costs elsewhere. And we have an increase in population for our special needs students and our multilingual students who require additional resources to make sure we can provide them all the services they deserve. And additionally, the WJCC Schools Board and Administration conducted a financial compensation study that showed some of the problems in our region with our compensation package. The school board proposed a 3-year plan to spread those costs over a more reasonable period of time than just 1 year, spiking everything up to an unreasonable level. And unfortunately, our budget this year will not allow even that first step to be implemented, which will push us further behind in our region and addresses the problem of competitive pay poorly. And I'm all for saving money, and trust me, I don't get to save a lot as a teacher, but you must consider what then to cut. Roads, waste management, water, sewage, education, electricity, these are services provided by those taxes, and I know that can be a hard pill to swallow when I get that bill for my car every 6 months. And I was just in Bristol, Virginia, where the tax rates are bottom of the barrel. And I encourage you to look at what they can provide with that level of revenue, and if those services are of the same quality and quantity that this community finds acceptable. To meet the needs of our students, the unfortunate reality is there are no good long-term solutions without support from the community. As the board knows, and as I know, we are not adequately funded by the state. That is due to funding formula problems that I have advocated for, that the VEA advocates for, that I know you advocate for, and the school board, and we all try to push this through every single year, and we're always told the problem is locally. And so we get into a finger-pointing match where the county and the city point at the state, and the state points at us, and no one claims accountability to solve the problem that comes up every single budget cycle. So, positive notes, the support cap has been lifted, so that will free up some additional funding from the state, and that is real progress, and I think we should be proud of that at the local level because we supported those changes. But the county has to ask itself, do we want to be a competitive division for hiring good staff, and do we trust our publicly elected officials and our publicly appointed officials to give a budget of need that we value and that we take seriously? And I can tell you as a staff member, I take their budget that they put forth to you very seriously. You trust us with your children every day, and the elected representatives have put forth that budget that I support. This year, we may still be able to squeak by, but this will only grow the problem, and some point in the next few years, the buck has to stop somewhere, because we will no longer be competitive, and we will slip further behind in our region for those who do receive additional funding from the state. It's a problem. It's not one that I think is fair, but we are the only ones who can have a solution. And I encourage you to reflect on that and to reflect on the community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Those are the public speakers. We will, no more public speakers. I'll close the public hearing, and there's no action required by the board this evening. And I will note that our work session next 2 weeks from now at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, it is open to the public. It's not where there's a public speaking, but it's a work session, but you can come and observe. You can watch it on television or you can watch it in person. Our next is the Virginia Department of Transportation project number UPC 102980, Pocahontas Trail Route 60, Multimodal Improvements Segment 1, Underground Utilities. Mr. Holt, will you give the staff presentation?
I will. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Good evening. On Wednesday, March 26th, the Virginia Department of Transportation held a design public hearing at James River Elementary School for this project. VDOT presented the preliminary design to provide complete street improvements, which includes landscaping and curb and gutter to address drainage problems. By also providing a continuous center turn lane, turning traffic will be removed from travel lanes, which will reduce rear-end crashes, and the additional lane will also allow for easier access for emergency vehicles along the corridor. In addition to the direct community impacts, the project, or direct community benefits, the project will have an impact regionally as this segment of Pocahontas Trail is along the proposed route for Trail 757 that extends from the current Virginia Capitol Trail to Fort Monroe and Hampton. An additional important aspect of this project is the undergrounding of existing utilities in the corridor. The policy basis for undergrounding existing utilities has been contained in the comprehensive plan since 1997, and in the currently adopted strategic plan, there's also a long-term goal of undergrounding utilities in general as an important aspect of goal number 4, protecting community character and enhancing the built environment. Undergrounding utilities as part of this current project was also contained in the community developed and board adopted corridor vision plan. One of the more recent examples of where existing overhead utilities have been placed underground is as part of the Croker Road widening project. The underground utility district for that project was authorized and approved by the board on October 9th, 2019. Similar past projects have also included Jamestown Road, John Tyler Highway, the Ironbound Road Reconstruction Project, and underground utility districts for the Long Hill Road widening and the Old Town Road turn lane projects were authorized and approved by the board on March 14th, 2017. Undergrounding utilities is an important aspect of community character, and it also helps to drive and improve reliability since underground utilities are less susceptible to damage from storm events and vehicle accidents. While VDOT funding for the project covers relocating existing overhead utility lines as part of the project costs, the relocated utilities would remain above ground. Relocation of existing overhead utilities to be placed underground is called a betterment, and VDOT doesn't cover those costs. Those incremental costs may be paid for by others. Funding available and programmed in the Transportation Match CIP item is sufficient to cover the cost of relocating utilities underground as part of this project, but in order to move forward, VDOT requires the adoption of an ordinance designating the project limits as an underground utility district and the adoption of a resolution committing to fund the actual cost difference between relocating the utilities overhead versus underground. Consistent with policy recommendations of the comprehensive plan and the similar previous efforts by the county to relocate existing overhead utilities as part of major road widening and improvement projects, staff recommends the Board of Supervisors adopt the ordinance and resolution found in your agenda packets. Thank you very much, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Questions for Mr. Holt? None? Okay, thank you. We will open the public hearing. I have one speaker card, Mr. Chris Henderson.
Evening, Mr. Chair. Chris Henderson, 101 Keystone. My biggest question about the project is the continuous turn lane in the center of the two drive-through lanes. And I guess my question to the designers would have been, what was the additional cost to provide protected turning movements for the identified right-of-way connections on Route 60 and to commercial driveways? I don't know if you're familiar with, you probably are, Richmond Road and how traffic can be convoluted there and how cars turning left on both sides come into contact with each other, and it's kind of a chicken scenario where people are exposed to head-on collisions even at low or moderate speeds. I would be concerned about that, whereas protected turn lanes protect drivers and vehicles from that. And if you introduced roundabouts, which have turned out to be, to my surprise, very effective in mitigating traffic impacts on Long Hill Road, if there were a couple of roundabouts out there, you could allow those people who don't have a protected left-hand turn movement into their property to quickly navigate a roundabout and get into their homes. There's probably 20 or so homes directly on Route 60 that now turn left into their driveways. And so I'm looking to just avoid potential accidents and conflicts with those folks through a different approach to design. Thank you.
No more speaker cards, so I'll close the public hearing and look to the board for discussion and or motion.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I had the opportunity to attend the VDOT session the other evening where folks had a chance to review and to comment on the proposal. This is the first segment that would run from approximately the fire station down to about Magruder Avenue. And the project is now fully funded, as I understand it, for that segment. It's coming from that direction because the Federal Highway Agency requires that you go from a 4-lane to 4 lanes, as opposed to the other direction where you would be coming from 2 lanes and then expanding to 3 lanes. So the project, or I'm sorry, I should say 4 lanes to 3 lanes from the fire station down. This is a project that's been on the boards for several years, and finally we have the opportunity to begin the process of acquiring property easements and
making sure that we can get the utilities relocated in a prompt and efficient manner. I think it's a great project. It's going to help deal with the traffic situation throughout Grove very effectively. And so when it comes time, I'll be happy to move the ordinance and the resolution.
I have something to add. You know, as we listen tonight with the budget and all that, you know, the cost of this, the cost of that. Well, why are we spending money in Grove? You know, nobody said anything about that. But that project has been needed for 20 years. And there's ditches and everything else. We've had accidents down there. We had people that have been killed down there. We're trying to make it a safer area. I go through Grove every now and then. So should we spend my tax money to go fix Grove? Yes, we should, because it's part of our community. It's just like taking this building that is falling apart over time and will, and we've done a study, and this project with the new county complex is not something that was hatched out last night. And it's had plenty of people that have talked about it and gone to functions and gone to everything, and we've had people study what it is to fix these old buildings and what it is to put a new building up and what the savings in the long run are. You don't need to look at next week. You need to look at 30, 40, 50 years down the road. And Grove has been an area that we haven't looked at in a long time. There's a lot of projects coming up in Grove, and there's a lot of stuff just like trash. Who wants to go from Grove all the way to Jolly Pond? I mean, my gosh, it'd be better off to throw it off on a road. That doesn't happen, but you know, that's a long way to go to do that. And you know, it's listening to some of the conversation today, and listening to how it was put out as far as this doesn't need to be done, that doesn't need to be done. I almost think that maybe we ought to have in the middle of the year a budget class and have the citizens that come up and have concerns attend the budget class. What does it take to put a budget on for this community? And where are you going to cut and where are you not going to cut? And what do the citizens want and what do they don't want? And, you know, it's not this board that decides that. It's the citizens decide it. And we've gone out and asked the citizens, and we'll continue to go out and ask the citizens, what do you want and how do you want things to be done? Certain people love parks. Certain people love schools. Certain people love transportation and being able to drive through Grove in order to get from one place to the other. If you go there on Friday and try to go through Grove, I guarantee you're not getting through there, not anytime soon. Grove is jammed up on a Friday afternoon. And we've got a school down there, and we've got to watch out for the children and everything else. And that community is just as important as any community in James City County. So we're trying to share what we have throughout the community. Are we perfect at what we're doing? No, but I didn't want to wait till the end of the meeting to have a few items I wanted to say. So I've kind of added in this because everybody be gone and y'all be driving home and you miss all this entertainment. So, John.
Well, I want to thank you, Mr. Hippel, for highlighting some of those items. We do know that there have been serious safety problems, not only in terms of accidents that have involved a person getting off of a bus, being hit by the bus because of poor lighting on the road and because of the narrowness, the inability to pull off of Route 60 if you are operating a bus makes it more challenging. The absence of sidewalks from the fire station all the way down to the elementary school that are consistent makes it very difficult for people to move. The drainage problems that we heard about from Mr. Taylor up in Toano, well, there are also very serious problems of drainage in Grove, and this project will help to address those issues as well. It is the fact that there will be crosswalks as part of this project, and remember that one of the problems, as you point to, Friday afternoons are a big problem, and whenever there's a problem on the interstate and folks are at Busch Gardens, then Route 60 becomes the way out. And that's a real challenge as well. And emergency vehicles are often unable to serve the citizens in Grove because of the traffic being backed up there. So this is a project that I think is going to really make a tremendous difference to the quality of life in the community.
I agree.
Any other comments, questions? Would you care to make the motion, gentlemen?
I move that we approve the resolution.
Resolution and the ordinance.
Yeah.
We have two, do we do,
And
can we do them
an
both together?
ordinance as well. Can I do them both together, Adam?
Yeah, okay. So moving the resolution and the
The
ordinance.
ordinance.
Mr. Stevens, call the roll, please.
Mr. McGlinnan.
Aye.
Ms. Knoll.
Aye.
Mr. Hippel.
Aye.
Ms. Larson.
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, number 3 is our proposed fiscal year 2026 to 2031 secondary 6-year plan. And Mr. Holt will give the staff presentation.
Back again, so thank you very much, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Each year, the Virginia Department of Transportation works with the Board of Supervisors to develop a list of project priorities for the secondary 6-year plan, or SSYP funding. This funding is specific to the improvements and construction of secondary roads, which are ones with route numbers above 600. For fiscal years 2026 through 2031, proposed allocations for James City County total just over $1,013,800, or almost $169,000 annually. These allocations are a little bit less than the current fiscal year 25 allocation. Similar to last year, given the funding levels expected over the next 6 years and the current projects that are underway, staff recommends adoption of the resolution in your agenda packets and keeping the following priorities. Croker Road widening is number 1. Number 2, intersection improvements. Sorry, these aren't prioritized, they're just got numbers in front of them just to keep them all straight. They're all important. Intersection improvements at Old Stage Road and Route 30 to make permanent the currently installed temporary traffic control markings, and intersection improvements at Centerville Road and Route 5, also to make permanent the currently installed temporary traffic control markings. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
I don't have a question. I guess I do have a priority, but safety is the overwhelming priority.
Yes.
And I, once again, am glad to see Centerville Road and Route 5, and certainly hope sooner rather than later. So.
Ready. No other questions? I'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Our first speaker is Mr. Chris Henderson.
All righty. Mr. Chairman, Chris Henderson, 101 Keystone. A couple of things that were conspicuously absent from the road plan was the continued widening of Long Hill Road from its terminus just past Old Town Road. I believe that we included in the comprehensive plan a objective to extend that widening project all the way down to Centerville Road. And I didn't see anything in the 6-year plan that addresses that. And that's something that's of critical need, particularly in front of Lafayette High School and that congested area with Seasons Trace and other neighborhoods where there are significant pedestrian vehicle contact. So I would urge you to, as you look at it, to highlight that area. Another road project that was eliminated from the comprehensive plan, but in following up on Mr. Hippel's point of thinking 30 and 40 years down the road, we had in the comprehensive plan not that long ago an extension of Croker Road down to Centerville Road. And that would allow people to bypass the future congestion that is going to occur at the 199 and Richmond Road interchange and the Lightfoot Road interchange. That area is already functioning at a level of service D or worse, and it's going to get worse as York County continues to add high-density population centers in the upper portion of that county. So the problems today are only going to get worse, and ultimately we're going to need a solution to that problem, and that Croker Road extension should be put back into the comprehensive plan and added to the 6-year plan so that we can begin studying the route and start asking for funding, because that's going to be a way to bypass all of that heavy congestion along 60. Thank you.
No more speakers, so I'll close the public hearing. I look to the board for discussion and a motion.
May I move the motion, please?
Please call the roll, please.
Ms. Larson?
Aye.
Mr. McGlinnan?
Aye.
Ms. Knoll? Mr. Hippel? Aye. Mr. Eisenhower?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Number 4 is our SUP 24-0030, 8429 and 8415 Pocahontas Trail, James City County Grove Convenience Center. And Kyle Shiroko will do the staff presentation. Did I get it close?
Sirico, but close enough.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Mr. Bob Dittman of James City County Department of General Services has applied for an SUP to allow for the construction of a solid waste container site and transfer facility, also known as a convenience center, on property located at 8429 and 8415 Pocahontas Trail. The convenience center will address waste disposal needs and provide recycling options for the Grove area of the county. The property is bordered by Fire Station 2, Pocahontas Trail, and Virginia Power and Electric Company property. Currently, the property is zoned PL, public lands, while the other parcel, which is used for egress from the site, 8415 Pocahontas Trail, is designated R2 General Residential. A convenience center requires the issuance of a SUP on property zoned R2. The property is designated federal, state, and county land as shown in the comprehensive plan. At its March 5th, 2025 meeting, the Planning Commission voted 7-0 to recommend approval of a special use permit approval of the special use permit request to the Board of Supervisors with the addition of condition 10 added to ensure the existing BMP is adequate for the project. The Planning Commission also approved a resolution to find the proposal consistent with the comprehensive plan in accordance with section 15.2-2232 of the Code of Virginia. Staff recommends the Board of Supervisors approve of the proposed special use permit subject to the proposed conditions. Staff would be happy to answer any questions you may have, and applicant is available as well. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for staff? All right, and I will have the Planning Commission representative, Mr. Polster, please come forward and give us the Planning Commission's report on this.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. There was no questions for the staff, but there was some discussion with the applicant on any comments received from adjacent neighbors. The applicant stated that the notification letters were sent out, but no comments or concerns were received. There were no speakers from the public to address the Planning Commission. There was some discussion on the proposed master plan sheet 2, which shows the existing stormwater management facility built in conjunction with the new firehouse number 2 several years ago. The master plan has a note that says that the stormwater management facility shall be designed to current rules and regulations, but does not show conceptually where or how the master plan will handle both the existing fire station and the new convenience center located on the older fire station's footprint. The zoning ordinance on the SUP submittal requirements does not require a conceptual stormwater master plan as a submittal requirement. The current stormwater facility outfall is at the head of a branch of the Grove Creek, a stream that is located in the Skiffs Creek watershed. Most of our past CIP stream restoration projects address the erosion and downstream effects of these outfall headstreams. The proposed resolution with the newly proposed condition 10 addresses the concerns by adding the condition that the BMP will be inspected prior to the operation of the convenience center. On a personal note, the Grove Convenience Center addresses the needs of an underserved section of the county. It was a pleasure to see the General Services project come to fruition after seeing it on the county CIP list for so many years. On a roll call vote of 7-0, the Planning Commission recommended to the board that they approve SUP 24-0030, 8429, and 8415 Pocahontas Trail, James City County Grove Convenience Center. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Mr. Polster? Okay, thank you, Frank. Okay, we'll open the public hearing, and we do not have any speaker cards for this one?
No, sir.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing and look to the board for a discussion and or a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move the approval of the SUP and the resolution declaring this consistent with the comprehensive plan.
Okay. Mr. Stevens, call the roll, please.
Mr. Hippel?
Aye.
Ms. Larson?
Aye.
Ms. Knoll? Mr. McGlinnan?
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower?
Aye. Motion carries. Okay. All right. Number 5 is our SUP 25-0001, Christ Fellowship Church of Williamsburg. Will Albiston will give the staff presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Pardon me. Mr. Terry Lackey has applied for a special use permit on behalf of Christ Fellowship Church of Williamsburg to allow the operation of a place of public assembly and expand the existing development on the site by adding 2 storage sheds and a playground area at 3687 Ironbound Road and 3695 Ironbound Road. The properties are approximately 4.77 acres in size, zoned R8 rural residential with proffers and PUDR planned unit development residential, designated low-density residential on the 2045 Comprehensive Plan land use map and located inside the primary service area. The master plan shown here shows the existing site development with the proposed site improvements. The existing site is developed with 2 main structures, a parking area, and a stormwater management facility. The proposed site improvements solely consist of the addition of 2 8 feet by 12.5 feet storage sheds and a 50 feet by 50 feet playground area. Should this SUP be approved, any future development on the site that is not generally consistent with this master plan would require a master plan amendment to be approved by the Board of Supervisors. At its April 2nd, 2025 meeting, the Planning Commission voted 6-0 to recommend approval of the application subject to the proposed conditions. There have been no changes to the application since the Planning Commission meeting. Staff finds this proposal to be compatible with surrounding development and generally consistent with the 2045 Comprehensive Plan and zoning ordinance. Staff recommends the Board of Supervisors approve this application subject to the proposed conditions. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have at this time, and the applicant is also in attendance. Thank you.
Questions for staff?
One question, I think it was Mr. Diggs who wrote us, and being the adjacent property owner, if anything were to come into a parking lot with lights and all that, that would have to come back to this, and he would be notified as a adjacent property owner from the county, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The way that we notify folks for a legislative case such as this would be staff sending out letters to adjacent property owners. If it was an application for a site plan amendment, the applicant then would be responsible for sending that out, but yes, he would be notified regardless.
Just want to make sure, in case there was a change, that was his concern, that he just be notified so that he could get ahead of it and just kind of make sure lights were direct and that sort of thing. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, any other questions for staff? Okay, Mr. Polster, you come forward and give us the Planning Commission report?
There were no questions for the staff or the applicant. However, we did have that adjacent neighborhood who did come and talk to us. He was supportive of the SUP. He's watched it over the number of years that it's changed hands. So his real concern was if it changed hands again, the parking lot and the expansion, and he didn't want to see that. And so the staff did clarify at the meeting that if there was a change to the master plan, the planning directive would make a determination of consistency with the approved master plan. And if it was not consistent, then the SUP would then come back to the Planning Commission and to the board. I did have one question that was kind of an extra piece for the applicant, because I drive by there at least once a week. And if you've been by there are a whole bunch of blue flags that are out in front.
I was going to ask you.
And what I was surprised to hear from the applicant was they got a grant from the Commonwealth to put a stormwater facility, a rain garden in there. And as you know, that thing slopes down into the church itself. So my compliments to them of getting out in front and thinking about that to improve the property. On a roll call vote of 6-0, the Planning Commission recommended to the board that they approve SUP 25-0001, Christ Fellowship Church of Williamsburg, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions for Mr. Polster?
I'm so glad you asked that question because I've been wondering that myself.
Same thing. I mean, I've been watching it now for almost 6 months.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Public hearing, we don't have no speaker cards on this one, so I'll close the public hearing and look to the board for a discussion or motion.
I'll move the motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Mr. Stevens, call the roll, please.
Ms. Larson?
Aye.
Mr. McGlinnan?
Aye.
Mr. Hippel? Aye. Ms. Knoll?
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, we are down now to public hearing number 6, special stormwater criteria update. Board adoption. Tony Small to give the staff presentation. Welcome, Ms. Small.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Mr. Stevens. Special stormwater criteria were approved by this board in December 2004 as a watershed management goal following adoption of the first approved watershed management plans for the Powhatan and Yarmouth Creek watersheds. The criteria were considered to be a layer of stormwater protection above and beyond standard water quality quantity control. Since 2004, county staff have performed plan reviews that incorporate a review of compliance with special stormwater criteria for applicable projects. Updates to the criteria are needed due to changes in the state stormwater regulations and Chapter 8 of the County Code, the new Virginia Stormwater Management Handbook, and land cover changes within county watersheds. Staff have worked to update the special stormwater criteria to align with these changes and achieve the goals outlined in the newest adopted watershed management plans for the county. Staff recommends adoption of the updated special stormwater criteria, and I am happy to answer any questions that you have.
Okay. Questions for staff? Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll open the public hearing, and I have one speaker, Chris Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chris Henderson, 101 Keystone. A couple of questions with regard to the revised stormwater criteria. James City County is a developed community by and large. And one of the things that we're going to be confronting in the next 20 to 30 to 40 years is redevelopment of sites. And I think it's important that when we discuss stormwater management, that we recognize the rights that are imputed to property owners that have existing improvements, and that we make sure that those rights and credits get incorporated into our revised stormwater plan. So I would like to see language in there that reaffirms those credits, because you get stormwater quality and quantity credits for existing impervious cover. So that would be one thing that I would urge you to reinforce, so that we can actually promote best practices and redevelopment of dilapidated or underutilized sites. The second portion of that would be with regard to our approach generally to stormwater, and why we are in many instances creating some of our own issues with the way that we do aggregation, settlement, and release into our waterways. Our approach should be for emphasizing infiltration rather than collection and distribution back into our waterways. By prioritizing infiltration, we keep water that is generated by a site on that site, and we allow it to infiltrate into the ground and recharge our aquifers. Yes, I realize it takes hundreds, if not thousands of years in order to do it, but you got to start somewhere. And that's part of the reason that we're having issues with the aquifer levels collapsing, is the fact that we're not recharging the aquifer. We're aggregating our stormwater runoff and sending it into the James River. And so I just want to encourage perhaps a different approach, or more enlightened approach to stormwater management that in the long run will be more economically beneficial to property owners and the city or county citizens. Thank you.
No more speakers. Okay, we'll close the public hearing and look to the board for discussion and our motion.
I've got a comment before we get to that. You know, Chris and I go back and forth, but I do agree with him on this one as far as he's looking out. We're looking 40, 50 years. He's looking at 1,000 years. So that's a good thing. I mean, it's going to cost the citizens a lot more money to put that in place, but it's good that he's looking at that and going, you know what? It's better for the environment. So the cost is what the cost is, but it's good for the environment in order to keep the environment clean and clear and pristine. So I got to hand it, thank you for that.
Mr. Triple, I'll just say, I think that our staff has actually been pretty active in trying to make sure that we move in that direction as well, that they are adapting to this kind of change. The one thing about the aquifer, of course, is that in many instances, in most instances, the actual feeding of the aquifer is coming not in James City County, but someplace way to the west, where there has been development that sometimes has interfered with the recharging of the aquifer, and that's something we can't entirely control because it's not our county where it's happening.
I'll
Any other
move the
discussion?
motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Mr. Stevens, call the roll, please.
Mr. Hippel.
Aye.
Ms. Knoll.
Aye.
Mr. McGlinnan.
Aye.
Ms. Larson.
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. All right, that concludes our public hearings. We have board considerations, none, record requests, and directives.
Yes, I'll start us off, and I'm gonna, until it gets fixed or I leave this seat, I'm gonna keep banging on that drum as far as our agreement or non-agreement with the schools, with, not the schools, but with Williamsburg. And I think it needs to be put out there in the public even more than what we've been doing. We've been very gentle on this 2-year plus process of trying to get this figured out once the mayor informed us on what the city council was going to be doing. And I will say the mayor informed us because I was chair at the time when he let us know what he was going to do as far as the schools and looking at that. So I'd like to see that before I leave this seat, either an agreement or separation or something be done. And if it continues the rate and the route that we're going, it's liable to end up being a separation because we can't get an agreement from them. And that's all, let the citizens know in James City County. That's from Williamsburg, and I'm not scared to say it. That's just the way it is. The next one is, I was totally surprised by our acting school superintendent and the information that was put out to our citizens to, and maybe this is not what he intended, but to stir the public up and let them know that we're not filling their entire budget. Well, we can't fill the entire budget. We can't fill our entire budget. And we just heard from the citizens of how much their money has gone up and what it's costing them and trying to cut back. And I agree. But to sit there and not, and citizens, listen very clearly. To sit there and not as an acting superintendent, maybe you ought to go to Hollywood, it'd be a better actor, but be an acting superintendent and not come to our county administrator and say, I've got a budget of X, and I know that you may not be able to fill them all. Can the two of us sit down as grown adults and discuss the differences in where we are? We have worked very hard for the teachers, for the students, for the staff in this group here. And every year we're giving more and more and more. And we're not complaining about giving more. We know they need certain things. We need certain things. But to act like that and put one group against the other is a shame. It's just not right. You would think someone educated would understand that theory and come to the county administrator and say, look, how far are we apart? How close can we get? What can we do to work together as a team? It's about time that the school board works with this group as a team, not as, let me see if I can set up and get more money out of it. You have got to be kidding. That is ridiculous. You need to sit down with us, work together. We have a limited amount of money, and we are always willing to listen. This board and this staff is always willing to listen. They may tell you, I can only go to this point, but I'll go to this point. And we always have. So that would be, if I was grading it, an F. So that's my 2 cents on that, and that's all that needs to be said tonight. Thank you.
Barbara, your turn to follow.
I've said what I want to say.
I agree with him. I agree with them. talk stuff we've done.
No, now, you can
Can
go
do it
now.
now?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, after that informative.
Tell us some good stuff.
Some good stuff, okay. I attended the National Vietnam War Veterans Day ceremony. It was in honor of the 50 years from the Vietnam War was finally over. Mr. Eisenhower gave a lovely presentation. Everybody enjoyed it. And I thought it was a really nice event. And I think having friends in that and so forth and losing them, it's finally that they get their due. And I think that's really, really important. Okay. I also spoke to the Tawanas Club of Tawano. And what they really wanted to know what was going on in the community. And Mr. Holt was lovely. He wrote me out 2 pages of everything that's going on in the community. They were thrilled because they had no idea. So that all goes along with, I think, keeping people informed and telling the truth is the only way we avoid all the phone calls, all the upset people. Tell them what's out there. And if they want to say something, then they can do that. Then I went with Mr. Scott, Paul Scott of the Child Development Resources. I met with him where they are now and saw their new building also, which is just beautiful. And it just seems like a really good organization. And so I was very impressed with that. I don't know when they're going to be done. I know they've got a lot of people donating a lot of things. I know that Mr. Nice has been very helpful with them and trying to cut down on their costs, keep their costs down. So that's going to be a beautiful building. It's going to be in the old building where Fish was on Waller Mill Road. And then Mr. McLennan and I got to shovel dirt the other day for the WADA transfer station, which I can't wait because it's going to be beautiful. And everybody was there. Everybody was there. People were there from Youngkin's office, even down there to see it. And it was a really nice event, and it's going to be really nice for people because, as Mr. McLennan pointed out, it's right next to the Y, a short walk to Centera Hospital, and then that new center, that new subdivision we approved with the 35 houses.
Clark Lane.
35 houses back there with affordable prices. I mean, it's a great place. I thought, what was bad with Walmart was it just took up the whole parking lot, and it was very confusing. But it's going to have under roof, restrooms, parking areas. It's beautiful. So that's all I've done. Thanks.
Well, I would like to address a few things in the budget. One, several speakers this evening referred to a 21% tax increase. There was a 20 average tax assessment rise, which by state code is based on the fair market value of your home. We are required to do that. If you are going to go out and sell your home for your assessed value, I doubt very seriously. We are still not caught up. So to take it over and over again this evening was upsetting to me because that is not a true statement. If you have an issue with that, then you need to go talk to the General Assembly. But if your home is valued here in James City County for say $465,000, I guarantee next week on Zillow, if you put it on the market, you're putting it on the market for $525,000, and you're probably getting that, if not a little bit more. This is a place that people want to live. I understand it's very expensive and not everybody can afford to live here, including teachers and including people on our own staff. I understand that, and that is a struggle. And I think that we have worked to make inroads for affordable housing. Of course, there's always inroads that need to be met. But, when a developer comes and says, oh, I have affordable housing, 9 times out of 10, it's not truly affordable housing. And the issue that this board struggles with is that it can be sold, they can market it to us, but the next day it can be sold for the same thing that the house next door sold for, which is not affordable. So, but there was not a 21% tax increase. Whether we like it or not, costs are rising. Get the Pulse app. Follow the amount of calls that our fire EMS are doing every day. This county is unbelievably busy. I received an email, crime's not going up, police aren't busy. Really? You must be getting different news than I'm getting, because crime is rising here. We're still a very safe place, but our police are doing more and more and more calls. So I just want to be able to have a realistic conversation when it comes to the budget. I would like to know what percentage of our budget is going to schools. There's been that our contribution has dropped considerably. So when we have our meeting, that's one question that I'm going to have. Because yes, while our enrollment is flat, I think the one thing that we did hear at our meeting with them, the needs are greater. There's 1,800 special ed students out of the 11,000 students. That can require PT, OT, speech, one-on-one, special schools. There's an enormous amount of needs that go along with students that have special needs. English is a special language. As one of our teachers said, we can get caught up in the argument over, immigration, etc. Doesn't matter. If you have a student that is in that classroom, the teacher has to be able to communicate with that student, and we want that student to be able to learn. So the needs of our school system are growing considerably. And we do want to make sure that we are paying our teachers. I had a clip sent to me from a meeting that the York County Board of Supervisors did with the superintendent. And the supervisor from York County, Doug Holroyd, thank you, that lives up here, basically said, James City County pays crappy and we should too. That is not the reputation that I want to have here in this county. And if we take a look at their compensation study, we are paying, on the average, $2,000 below what Newport News and Hampton and York are paying. And I don't think we want to do that. Can we do that all in this year? Should we have met last year and said, we're doing a compensation study, plan for it this year? Probably. We have to be able to plan in order to have such a large budget, a $9 to $11 million budget increase needs to be planned for. But perhaps we need to start talking this year in order to plan for that next year. Is our tax rate sufficient for the services that we offer? I'm not sure it is. So where do we go? Do we cut? Do we increase revenue? I think those are some hard discussions that we're going to need to have as a board moving forward. So, if I didn't know better, I'd swear tonight that the whole group because everybody was singing from the same piece of music. And so, on the other hand, we got 50 to 100 emails from parents telling us, fund our schools. But we had one person come out and speak in defense of that tonight. And I don't think it's 5 o'clock, in all honesty. And to be fair, we've had more people here at 5 o'clock than we've had at 7. And for us, I'm not going to be a board member that makes a decision at midnight, because that's not the sunshine either. And I believe most of us, and if not all of us, are very busy during the day. And so by the time, I don't know, maybe you all don't, by the time 10, 11 o'clock rolls around, I'm not making good decisions. I'm tired. And so, I think we've shown that we have more people at 5 o'clock than at least when I started on here that we had at 7 o'clock. But
Some that meet in the morning.
Well, our neighbors meet at 2 and 4. So
Some meet at 8:30 in the morning, which is just,
yeah.
I'd like to make them all at 1 o'clock.
I know
That's
you
me,
would.
so.
But I would hope that, I would hope some of the emails, what I responded in my emails, and I have not changed that, is send back to me, and I will say I have gotten a couple that have said, raise my revenue. But I have said, please watch the county administrator's meeting that he did last Tuesday. Supervisor McGlinnan and I were here, and I thought you did an excellent job, along with Sharon and her team, and Doug and his team, Doug, that came out and did that. And let us know, what services do you want to see cut? Where's some ideas for revenue? Don't just send an email. Give us some ideas, because that way we're not operating in a vacuum. So, but on to some events. One was the budget meeting that was here. The next night I had a reception out at Jamestown Island, historic Jamestown, day before Jamestown Day. They did an excellent job. I was unable to attend the next day when to hear what archaeological finds. I don't know if anybody was able to attend that, but anyway, I appreciate that. And also attended a chamber event, the Power of Women. Dr. Amber Price, from Senior Vice President, Chief Nursing Officer at Centera Health, did. That was on the 28th of March. And that was Greater Williamsburg Chamber of Commerce, which this locality supports by statute quite a bit, along with our neighbors in the city of Williamsburg and the county of York. And that goes towards helping them put on these really good events. They had Abigail Spanberger a couple of weeks ago for a community conversation, and next week they are having Winsome Sears. I will be at a conference and unable to attend, but I do urge people to attend these events that they are putting on. The tickets are relatively affordable, I believe, and you get an opportunity to hear from people that haven't always been in this area. And talking to Ms. Bedez, she really wanted to not have only Richmond and the South Side get these types of events, but to be able to bring them here. So if we can support them, I think that would be really great. So that was the highlight. And I had a Visit Williamsburg Finance Committee meeting today. And we are, along with everybody else, watching to see what's going to happen. We are hoping that I think I've said this before, we are a great drive-to destination. Oil's going down, perhaps gas will go down. That will get people that want to drive to this area and visit. And of course, we're getting ready for the 250th. And so we're projecting about a 2% growth in tourism next year. Hope that'll be a little bit more, but anyway, and again, those meetings are public, as are our board meetings. Thank you.
I think all the events that we went to have been covered by others. Thank you. Thank you for mentioning that I was there at those, except for the VDOT session, which we had a great turnout. I think there were about 50 people at James River Elementary to see the renderings and to talk about the way in which this project's going to go forward on Pocahontas Trail. And I think the citizens were very appreciative of it and really excited about the possibility of starting to see some movement on it. You know, I think that one of the things that we all learn is that things always take longer than you expect. But when they start happening, then you can really feel good about the impact that it will have on the quality of life for our citizens. And so I want to thank you all for your support on those items and tell you that I know that you're working in the same areas, same ways in your own constituencies and find ways to make things better. In line with that, I think it would be great if we ask our terrific video team maybe to help us put together a short story of what's happening in the community on affordable housing, maybe a little bit later this spring or in the summer, because I think there are some really exciting developments that are happening to make it possible for folks who are not earning even the average salary here in the community, which is pretty high, but who are vital to the success of our community, our CNAs, people who work in hospitality and so forth. And I think that we really do have a very, very positive story to tell about how we're trying to address that in what's a very challenging environment. So I'll just I'll put that out there and say that April is my hell month because we have everything going on, and it seems like everybody wants your attention as the academic year winds down and moves toward continuous marathon grading. This is a great opportunity to come here and spend some time with you all.
Don't grade me. Thank you.
And away from those papers tonight.
No grading.
Yeah, just one other follow-up. I think somebody mentioned something about Bristol and perhaps that their taxes were very low and they were doing a lot, I think, is if I understood that. But I do want to point out, Bristol has something that we do not, which is a casino.
Yes.
And for instance, in December, that casino brought in like $3.71 million in tax revenue, with about $1 million of that divided between Bristol and some other communities. But just, it's so hard when things get said because not everything is an apples to apples comparison. So we just need to be very careful that we are aware. Just like our good friends in New Kent, they have Rosie's and they're getting ready to have Buc-ee's and they're going to be getting in a lot of sales tax money.
A lot of horse racing.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. On March 28th, I attended the Clean Business Award that for the first quarter. We were over at Craft 31, and Peg Borman was there. We presented that to them, and they have the sign outside. Then on the March 29th, I did participate with the Vietnam Veterans Day presentation over at the VFW chapter on Jester's Lane. And I thank Ms. Knoll for being there. We had quite a good turnout of folks. And we had Congressman Whitman there. We did a presentation. We passed out a lot of pins and stuff, but the presentation for me was rather personal because it was a reflection upon people that I knew or flew with that we had lost. So it was, it's always difficult when you have to think about those things, but there were a lot of men and women in that room that had participated that had the same kind of experiences. I will tell you that I have been recruited by the Kiwanis again for Men Who Cook in June. So I participated in that quite a bit, but I guess whatever I'm making, my wife must make it pretty good for me. I keep getting asked back. I'm sorry I missed the checkout at the WADA groundbreaking because I was taking a little time away to drive to Ohio, and I'm sorry, but I brought the weather back with me when I came back. They got a lot more rain. They're getting a lot more flooding over there. A couple of things that I wanted to emphasize for the board. One has already been mentioned, but I want to just re-emphasize is between now and our meeting later in the month, please do put your specific budget item request for information in to Scott so that the staff can have all of that prepared in advance. It helps with conducting the discussion that we will have at that work session. And if you have ideas about how we can make tweaks on either revenues or expenses or whatever, we need to hear them also. We can all have the information ready and discuss them. One of the questions that I think would like to have some information on if we can is I know we have dealt with retention and recruitment problems with police and fire originally because we did some improvements to the pay structure and everything for those. And then that eventually got extended to all of our staff. And I think, I know that with the police and fire, we have a very positive outcome of that with greater recruitment and greater retention. And it's made the services we provide to the county much more stable and really effective. To a certain degree, if you can, we'd like to have some feedback, if you can get it for us, about how that implementation from last year has affected our staffing and things going forward, because we're not a little county of 20,000 people anymore. And it's this was the complex when we had 20,000 people, and we're much larger and bigger than that right now. And I do want to thank Mr. Hippel for reminding folks that we did a study on this, and that if we wanted to meet the requirements of service to our community, it was going to require certain space, and that space could be either done one of two ways: to renovate old buildings or expand old buildings, or to consolidate and build a new building, and that the cost was about the same either way. So it's not an idea that we just really are doing this because it's a big shiny new toy. This is to meet a need that's been growing from 20,000 to 80,000 people over a period of time. And I think that, yes, it's a big bite. I think we need to look at it very carefully and very consider all the input we've had. But anything we can be provided to staff so we're ready for that in 2 weeks would be very helpful. And that's all I have. We go to reports of the county administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a few items, and I will say on the pay plan, what it's done for staffing, I will bring that back to you. My general sense in talking with departments, it has made a difference. It's in our recruiting, it's in our hiring, and in our competitiveness. But I'd like to bring you numbers, and I'll bring those to you very soon so we can talk through that. The other piece I would like to just mention again, the litter cleanup, countywide litter cleanup, sponsored by our Clean County Commission, April 26th. If you have information on our website, or you can call 757-259-5375. Again, 259-5375. And would also mention the Little Creek Reservoir boat ramp is back open. The water levels are such that we've reopened it so residents can launch their watercraft. We have made improvements and lengthened and regraded, and so I hope our residents enjoy that. We have not yet reopened our store there for our rentals, and that will come in the future. But if they have questions about what's going on there, 757-207-0880, 207-0880. And that's all I have.
Hey.
Scott, I had a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you looking at signage, like making sure our signage is clean, if there's any update to signage, as we get ready for the 250th?
Ms. Larson, we've made a pretty concerted effort on road signage along our thoroughfares, our main route, Centerville Road, Richmond Road, trying to have street name signs that are good. I am regularly turning in, Rossi Carroll was here with VDOT. There's a sign I ride by every day, multiple times a day for the last 6 years, that I had not noticed how badly it was. And when I turn them in, VDOT is generally pretty good to get them in process and get them replaced. So I'd like to tell you I'm looking all the time, and our staff is looking all the time. We are making an effort, but there are a lot of signs, and what looked good today, it just sort of fades over time, and all of a sudden it doesn't look good. And so my challenge to all of us, the community, our staff, and each of us, when we see something that doesn't represent the community well, push it to us and let us fix it. But we have made an effort to improve signage. One we're talking about as well is all of our wayfinding signage and the historic triangle signage, and is it clean? Is it the right look? We're not ahead of schedule for making a big change, but maybe along the interstate or some of the larger signs, maybe there's a new look, and we leave the other wayfinding signage, just clean it up and make sure it's better for the 250th in the event that we expect here in the coming year. So the short answer is yes, but it is an ongoing, continuous effort to watch the appearance of the community and make sure it represents what we want.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. May I have a motion to enter closed session for the following? Discussion of the award of a public contract involving the expenditure of public funds and the discussion of the terms and scope of such contract, where discussion in an open session would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body pursuant to section 2.23711A29 of the Code of Virginia and pertaining to the contract for the joint operation of schools between the county and the city of Williamsburg.
So
Motion.
moved.
Okay.
Mr. Hippel?
Aye.
Ms. Null?
Aye.
Ms. Larson?
Aye.
Mr. McGlynn? Mr. Eisenhower?
Aye.
Motion carries.
We are in closed session. in open session.
Mr. Chairman, I move to certify that we only spoke about those items we said we would speak about going to closed session.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Stevens, call the roll.
Mr. Hippel?
Aye.
Ms. Knoll?
Aye.
Ms. Larson?
Aye.
Mr. McGlinnan?
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower?
Aye. Okay. I now have a motion to adjourn until 1 PM on April 22nd, 2025 for a business meeting. We have a motion. Mr. Stevens, call the roll.
Mr.
Aye.
Hippel? Ms. Knoll?
Aye.
Ms. Larson?
Aye.
Mr. McGlinnan?
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower?
Aye.
Motion carries.